On a cold winter night, a young couple named Sarah and Mark decided to escape the city and take a vacation to a quiet mountain village. They had rented an old wooden house owned by an elderly couple. The wooden house was nestled deep within the forest with no other houses in sight. Initially, spending time in this secluded house was exciting, but on the second night, their dreams started to become strange and eerie. Both of them heard odd noises within the house, sounds of doors closing, footsteps, and even whispers. One night, Sarah noticed something was amiss. Several items were missing. Some of their belongings had disappeared, and she questioned Mark. Mark, of course, didn't admit to anything missing and brushed the situation off as a silly prank. However, things got even stranger. They felt as if they were being watched inside the house, even with their eyes closed. It felt like someone's gaze was upon them. Sarah, while alone in the house, standing in front of the wall mirror, noticed that her reflection started to look in a different direction. The reflection began to communicate with her through gestures. They were not sure that something strange was happening in the house. When Sarah told Mark, she found out that he had experienced similar things. Both of them felt as though they were being watched. Even when they closed their eyes, Sarah, at one point, stood in front of the wall mirror, and her reflection started to make signs, trying to communicate with her. The situation escalated. Objects continued to disappear. Odd sounds echoed through the house. Doors opened on their own, and their reflections seemed to move independently. Sarah and Mark were convinced that there was something unnatural in the house. After some research, they discovered that a previous couple had lived in the house and claimed to have been haunted by the spirits of the former owners. Sarah and Mark started to believe that the spirits of the previous owners still lingered in the house. As nights passed, the strange occurrences continued. Belongings vanished, eerie sounds persisted, doors opened and closed, and their own reflections seemed to have a mind of their own. With each day, they found more evidence that this house was once the site of a dark event that had left it haunted by the spirits of its former owners. In the end, Sarah and Mark decided to escape the eerie house. However, when they struggled to open the door, it wouldn't budge. The house seemed to be trapping them inside. In a state of fear and suspense, Sarah and Mark were trapped in the house, struggling to overcome the strange occurrences that surrounded them. A town sat on the edge of a gloomy and desolate forest. The town's residents spoke of strange happenings deep within the forest, but no one knew exactly what was going on. One day, a young man named Daniel decided to go camping in the forest with his friends. As they sat around the campfire one night, Daniel noticed something. Strange lights were shimmering in the darkness of the forest, as if distant eyes were gleaming. His companions didn't see these lights and dismissed Daniel's observations. However, Daniel realized that these lights were moving closer to him. For a moment, his breath caught, and he saw the eyes of a creature, but these eyes were unlike any humans. They were bright, reddish, and terrifying. When Daniel mentioned these eyes to the others, his friends laughed it off and thought he was just scared. However, the next day, another one of their friends disappeared and didn't return. Daniel and the remaining friends ventured deeper into the forest to search for their missing friend, but as they roamed the forest, they felt the strange eyes watching them from every corner. As the day turned to night, they became lost in the forest, and more of their friends continued to disappear. Only Daniel remained. In the end, he couldn't unravel the mystery within the forest. The townsfolk say that strange lights and bright eyes still shimmer in the depths of the forest, and every night, those who are not brave enough claim to see strange eyes gleaming in the darkness of the forest. Emily, who lived in a small town, had started having strange dreams recently. In her dreams, she found herself in a dark and empty street. Every night, she had the same dream, and it began to disturb her. One night, something different happened in her dream this time. Instead of the dark street, she found herself in a replica of her town. The streets were empty, and everything was silent, but she felt that something was not right. Emily, when she found herself in the replica of her town, noticed that everything was twisted. Although the houses, streets, and trees seemed familiar, they were all trapped in some kind of nightmare. She started walking in her dream, and in the windows of the houses, she saw the shadows of strange figures. Suddenly, a pair of dark eyes appeared and began to watch her. The eyes were getting closer to her, but Emily couldn't stop herself. In the eyes, she sensed a feeling of death and destruction. Emily tried to wake up, but couldn't. She continued to progress in the dream town, and the eyes came even closer. Eventually, the eyes touched her, and everything turned black. The next day, Emily noticed that everything in her town was different. There were no familiar streets and houses. Instead, strange and menacing structures had taken their place. Even the townspeople had changed. Emily realized that the boundary between reality and dream had blurred, and she now lived inside her dream. In fear, she tried to reclaim her real world, but escaping from this dark parallel world ruled by shadows would prove to be difficult.